The repair bay of the Starship Endurance was dimly lit. Tools were scattered across workbenches. Only the sound of metal hitting metal broke the silence. June wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on an engine part. There, he said to himself, patting the repaired thruster. Good as new. June was not tall or strong. His hands were his best feature, nimble fingers that could fix almost anything. The crew of the Endurance respected him for this skill. When machines broke down, they called for June. He had been working on the ship for 3 years. It was not an exciting life, but it was his life. Every day he woke up, ate his meals in the crew cafeteria, and fixed what needed fixing. Sometimes he dreamed of something more, but those dreams never lasted long. Captain Lee appeared at the door of the repair bay. His face looked worried. June, we have a problem with escape pod number 4. The launch mechanism is jammed again. June nodded and gathered his tools. I'll fix it right away, Captain. As June walked through the narrow corridors of the ship, he noticed people moving faster than normal. Voices sounded tense. Something was wrong. What's happening? He asked a passing security officer. Long-range scanners picked up something. The officer replied. A Varix warship heading our way. June felt his stomach tighten. Everyone knew about the Varix. They were not human. They looked somewhat like tall lizards that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was covered in small scales that shimmered like metal. But what made them truly feared were their weapons. Living weapons. The Varix had created creatures they called dragons. These were not the dragons from old Earth stories. They were huge snake-like beings with metal scales and the ability to breathe plasma that could melt through ship hulls. Just one dragon could destroy a small fleet. June hurried to escape pod 4. If the Varix were coming, they needed all escape pods working. His hands moved quickly as he opened the access panel. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed. In the corridor, all hands to battle stations. Captain Lee's voice came through the speakers. This is not a drill. Prepare for possible boarding action. June worked faster. Sweat dripped into his eyes. The pod's mechanism had a bent rod. He needed to straighten it before the pod would launch properly. A violent shake threw him against the wall. The lights flickered. The sound of tearing metal came from somewhere above. Hull breach in Section 7. Someone shouted over the comm system. They're using the dragons. Another shake, stronger this time. June fell to the floor. His toolkit spilled around him. When he stood up, the main lights had gone out. Only emergency lighting remained. Engine room hit. The captain's voice sounded desperate now. All crew prepare to... The message cut off. June waited for it to continue, but there was only silence. More. Explosions rocked the ship. June knew he had to find the other crew members. But as he stepped into the corridor, he heard strange voices. They spoke a language he didn't understand. The sounds were harsh with lots of clicks and hisses. The Varix had boarded the ship. June quietly moved back into the small room with the escape pod. He crawled into a maintenance shaft behind the pod. It was a tight space used for accessing, wiring. No Varix would fit in here. He pulled the access panel closed behind him and held his breath. Heavy footsteps passed by outside. Through small gaps in the panel, June could see them. 3 Varix warriors. Their scales glinted in the emergency lights. They carried weapons that looked partly mechanical and partly alive. One of them pointed down the corridor and made a series of clicking sounds. The others followed. Hours passed. June stayed hidden in the maintenance shaft. He heard screams. Weapons fire. Strange roars that must have come from the dragons. Then slowly the ship grew quiet. Too quiet. His legs had gone numb from being in the same position for so long. Carefully, he shifted his weight. A tool he hadn't noticed was under his leg. It fell and hit the metal floor with a small clang. The sound seemed very loud in the silence. Footsteps approached. Before June could move, the access panel was ripped away. A Varix warrior stared at him with yellow eyes that had vertical pupils like a snake's. The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. 2 more warriors appeared. They pulled June from his hiding place. His legs were too numb to stand. They dragged him through the corridors of the ship he had called home. Bodies of crew members lay everywhere. June looked away. He did not want to see the faces of people he had known. The warriors brought him to the bridge. It was barely recognizable. Parts of the ceiling had collapsed, control panels sparked. And standing in the center was a figure that made June's breath stop. She was taller than the other Variks. Her scales were not the dull gray of the warriors, but a deep blue that seemed to shift color as she moved. Around her neck and wrists were rings of metal that glowed with strange energy. A crown of the same material sat on her head. This had to be Queen Ara, the ruler of the Variks dominion, the most feared being in this part of the galaxy. One of the warriors pushed June to his knees before her. The queen studied him. Her yellow eyes moved over him slowly. When she spoke, a small device at her throat translated her words into human language. "You hide rather than fight," she said. Her voice was surprisingly soft. "Smart for a human." June said nothing. His eyes moved to a piece of equipment on the queen's wrist. It was sparking slightly. A malfunction in the power coupling, he thought automatically. The mechanic in him noticed these things even now. The queen saw where he was looking. She raised her arm, examining the device. "You understand this technology?" she asked. "It's a simple power regulation problem," June said before he could stop himself. "The coupling is overloading." Queen Ara made a sound that might have been surprise. She turned to her warriors and spoke in their language. They seemed to disagree with whatever she had said, but she silenced them with a gesture. "Most humans we capture are soldiers or scientists," she said to June. "A mechanic is unusual and potentially useful." She stepped closer. June could smell a strange scent like metal and spice. "You will come with us," she decided. "You will serve in my royal vessel." June thought about refusing, about saying he would rather die. But as he looked at the dead crew around him, he realized something. If he died here, no one would ever know what happened to the Endurance and her crew. If he lived, maybe someday he could escape. Maybe he could tell their story. "I don't have much choice, do I?" he said. Queen Ara's mouth formed what might have been a smile. It showed rows of sharp teeth. "No," she said simply. "You do not." As the warriors pulled him to his feet, June took one last look at the broken bridge of the Endurance. Then he was marched toward an unknown future as a captive of the Variks Queen. June woke up on a hard bed in a small room. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then it all came back to him. The attack. The dead crew. Queen Ara. He sat up and looked around. The room had metal walls. There was a small sink and toilet in one corner. A thin blanket covered the bed. A single light glowed in the ceiling. The door slid open. A Variks warrior stood there pointing a weapon at him. "Come," the warrior said through a translation device. "Work begins now." June followed the warrior through long corridors. The Queen's ship was huge, much bigger than the Endurance. Other aliens walked past them. Some looked like the Variks. Others were species June had never seen before. All of them wore metal collars. Slaves, June realized. Like him now. They came to a large room filled with machinery. It looked like an engine room, but much more complex. Pipes and wires ran everywhere. Strange devices hummed and clicked. "You work here," the warrior said. "Fix what is broken. If you try to damage anything, you die." The warrior pushed him toward a group of aliens working on a large pump. Then the warrior left. One of the aliens looked up as June approached. To June's surprise, it was human. A woman with short black hair and tired eyes. "You're new," she said. "I'm Hana. Been here 2 years." "June," he replied. "My ship was attacked yesterday." "Yesterday?" Hana gave a small laugh. "They must have jumped right after getting you. It's been 3 weeks since the attack on your ship." June felt dizzy. 3 weeks? He must have been kept asleep somehow. "What is this place?" he asked. "Queen Ara's flagship," Hana explained. "The biggest ship in the Variks fleet. We maintain the less important systems. The Varric's engineers handle the weapons and main engines. She handed him a tool that looked almost like a wrench. This pump moves cleaning fluid through the lower decks, she said. It's clogged again, help me fix it. June worked with Hana for hours. She showed him how the tools worked, how the different systems connected, what they were allowed to touch and what was forbidden. Never go near the upper decks, she warned as they ate a bland meal in the slave quarters later. That's where the Queen's private areas are. And the royal menagerie. Royal menagerie? June asked. Hana lowered her voice. Where she keeps her collection of creatures from across the galaxy, especially her dragons. A tall alien with 4 arms leaned toward them. The new one arrived just before you, he whispered. Biggest dragon she's ever had. They call it Morok. Killed. 3 handlers already, another slave added. Only the Queen can control it. Why does she keep such dangerous creatures? June asked. Power, Hana said simply. The dragons are living weapons. The more powerful the dragon, the more feared the Queen. Days passed. June learned the routines of the ship. Every morning, guards took the slaves to their work areas. Every night, they returned to their small rooms. The work was hard, but not impossible. June's skills as a mechanic made him valuable, which meant he was treated slightly better than some others. One day, June was assigned to fix ventilation systems on the upper decks. He and Hana climbed through maintenance tunnels, repairing air filters and fan motors. We're close to the menagerie, Hana whispered as they worked on a particularly large vent. Look. Through the slats of the vent, June could see into an enormous chamber. Inside were cages and tanks of all sizes. Strange creatures moved inside them. Some looked like animals from Earth. Others were completely alien. And then he saw them. The dragons. They weren't like Earth dragons from stories. They had no legs or wings. They looked more like giant snakes with metal scales. Each one had a different color. Blue, green, red. They moved with strange grace, their bodies flowing like liquid metal. The Queen is coming, Hana whispered urgently. Don't let her see you looking. June quickly turned back to his work, but he couldn't help taking one more glance. Queen Ara had entered the menagerie. She wore a gleaming suit of armor that seemed to shift colors. Behind her came several warriors and what looked like scientists. They stopped in front of the largest cage June had ever seen. Inside was a dragon that made the others look small. Its scales were black with streaks of gold. Its head was massive, with glowing orange eyes. Morok, Hana whispered. The new one. The Queen raised her hand toward the cage. She wore a special glove that glowed with strange energy. The dragon Morok lowered its huge head, as if bowing. But June could see the creature's muscles tense. It did not want to bow, it was being forced. It hates her, June said softly. Of course it does, Hana replied. She controls it with pain. June and Hana finished their work and moved to the next section. They were almost done for the day when alarms began to blare throughout the ship. Warning, a voice announced in several languages. Containment breach in the Royal Menagerie. All non-security personnel evacuate upper decks immediately. Hana's face went pale. We need to get back to the lower levels now. They started moving quickly through the maintenance tunnels. Behind them, they could hear shouting and the sound of weapons firing. Then the ship shook violently. They were thrown against the wall of the tunnel. What was that? June asked. Plasma breath, Hana said, her voice shaking. One of the dragons is loose. They crawled faster through the tunnel. The sounds of chaos grew louder. More alarms began to ring. Then the tunnel in front of them tore open. June and Hana froze. Looking at them through the opening was a massive orange eye. The eye of Morok. The dragon had ripped through the outer wall of the tunnel. Its huge head was now inches from them. June could feel intense heat coming from the creature. He could smell a strange odor, like hot metal and electricity. Don't move, Hana whispered. Maybe it won't see us. But the dragon was looking right at them. Its eye focused on June. He waited for it to attack, to breathe plasma that would turn them to ash. Instead, It made a strange rumbling sound, almost like a groan of pain. That's when June saw it. On the dragon's neck was a metal device, sparking and smoking. It looked like some kind of control collar, but much more complex, and it was clearly malfunctioning. Without thinking, June spoke to the dragon. "You're hurt," he said softly. "That device is broken. It's hurting you." The dragon's eye widened. It made the rumbling sound again. "June, what are you doing?" Hana hissed. "We need to run." But June didn't run. Instead, he slowly moved toward the dragon. His mechanic's eyes could see the problem clearly now. The control device had a damaged power regulator, just like the one he had noticed on Queen Ara's wrist when they first met. It was sending random pulses into the dragon's body, causing pain. "I can help you," June said, still moving slowly forward. "I can fix it." The dragon did not attack. It watched him with that intelligent orange eye. It seemed to be listening, understanding. Behind them, June could hear the sounds of Varric's warriors approaching through the tunnels. They had only moments before they would be discovered. Morok suddenly moved. Its huge head pushed further into the tunnel. Hana screamed, certain they were about to die. But the dragon wasn't attacking. It was offering its neck to June, turning to show him the damaged control device. "It wants me to help it," June realized aloud. And in that moment, everything changed. "June, have you lost your mind?" Hana pulled at his arm. "That thing will kill us." But June barely heard her. He was focused on the sparking device attached to Morok's neck. The dragon remained still, its massive head extended toward him, waiting. "It's a neural control interface," June said, examining the device without touching it. "But something's damaged. See how it's sparking? It's sending random pain signals." He reached slowly into his tool pouch and pulled out a small metal tool. Morok watched his every move but did not pull away. "I need to open the access panel," June explained to the dragon, speaking as he would to a nervous machine. "This might feel strange, but I'm trying to help." The tunnel filled with a bright light. Varric's warriors had arrived, their weapons pointed at them. Behind the warriors stood Queen Ara, her face twisted with rage and surprise. "Step away from my dragon," she commanded. Morok's body tensed. A low growl rumbled from its throat. The dragon's head turned slightly toward the queen but remained mostly focused on June. "The control device is malfunctioning," June said, keeping his voice calm. "It's hurting him. That's why he broke out. He's in pain." Queen Ara stared at the scene before her. Her most dangerous dragon was not attacking a human slave, but instead allowing him to approach. "Impossible," she said. "Morok obeys only me." "Right now, Morok obeys no one," June replied. "The device is broken. Look at how it's sparking." The queen took a step forward. Morok's growl grew louder, more threatening. "He'll let me fix it," June continued. "But I need proper tools." For a long moment, no one moved. The warriors kept their weapons aimed at June and the dragon. Hana pressed herself against the wall of the tunnel, trying to become invisible. Finally, Queen Ara spoke. "If this is a trick—" "It's not a trick," June interrupted. "I'm a mechanic. I fix things. Your dragon has a broken part that needs fixing." "It's that simple." The queen's eyes narrowed, but she signaled to one of her warriors. "Bring repair equipment now." The warrior rushed away. The others remained in position, weapons ready. "How are you doing this?" Queen Ara asked, her voice quieter now. "Morok has killed every handler except me." June shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe he knows I'm trying to help. Dragons do not understand such things. They are weapons, not pets." "Maybe they understand more than you think," June suggested. The warrior returned with a case of tools. At the queen's command, he slid the case across the floor toward June. June opened it and found advanced repair tools inside. Some looked familiar, like improved versions of tools he had used on the Endurance. Others were completely new to him. "I need to touch the device now," he told Morok. "Try to stay still." The dragon made a soft rumbling sound that almost seemed like agreement. June carefully placed his hands on the neural control interface. The device was warm and seemed to pulse with energy. Using a tool similar to a screwdriver, June opened the access panel. Inside was a complex arrangement of circuits and small glowing power cells. "The power regulator is cracked," he said, pointing to a small crystal component. "And 2 of these connections are loose. Every time they touch, they send a pain signal." "Can you repair it?" the Queen asked. "I think so. I need a replacement." "Regulator." Queen Ara spoke to one of her scientists, who quickly left and returned with a small box of parts. June found a matching crystal regulator inside. As he worked, June kept talking softly to Morok. The dragon remained perfectly still, even when the repair process must have caused discomfort. The warriors and Queen Ara watched in amazement. "Connections need to be realigned," June explained as he worked. "See how they should line up with these markings? Whoever installed this did it wrong." "It was installed correctly," the Queen said stiffly. "No, it wasn't," June replied without thinking. Then he realized he had contradicted the Queen. He glanced at her, expecting anger, but she was watching him with intense curiosity. It took nearly an hour of careful work, but finally June closed the access panel. The device was no longer sparking. It hummed with a steady, quiet energy. "There," he said, stepping back. "It should work properly now." Everyone waited to see what would happen. Would Morok return to its aggressive state? Would it attack? Would it obey the Queen? Morok lifted its head. The dragon stretched its long body, moving with new ease. The constant pain it had been feeling was gone. Queen Ara raised her gloved hand, activating the control signal. "Morok, return to your containment area," she commanded. The dragon turned its head toward her. For a moment it seemed like it might obey. Then it looked back at June and moved closer to him. "Return to containment," the Queen repeated, louder this time. But Morok did not move away from June. Hana, who had been silent all this time, whispered, "It's protecting you." And she was right. Morok had positioned its body between June and the warriors. A soft purring sound came from the dragon's throat as it gently nudged June's shoulder with its massive head. Queen Ara's face showed a mix of emotions: anger, surprise, and something else. Fear, perhaps? For the first time in her reign, one of her prized dragons was not obeying her command. "This is impossible," she said. "The control device should force obedience." "Maybe it's not just about control," June suggested. "Maybe it's about trust." The Queen stared at him. "Trust? These are weapons, not pets." "But they're alive," June said. "They can think. They can feel." As if to prove his point, Morok nudged him again, more gently this time. June raised his hand and carefully placed it on the dragon's metallic scales. They were warm and seemed to vibrate slightly under his touch. The Varix warriors shifted nervously. Some raised their weapons higher. "No," the Queen commanded them. "Do not fire." She studied the scene before her. A human mechanic touching her most deadly dragon, and the dragon responding not with violence but with what almost seemed like affection. Queen Ara was not used to being surprised. She had conquered worlds, enslaved species, built the greatest fleet in the galaxy, but she had never seen anything like this. Finally, she made a decision. "You," she pointed at June. "From this moment, you are Morok's handler." The warriors looked at each other in confusion. Even Hana seemed shocked. "This was my plan all along," the Queen continued, her voice growing stronger. "To find the one being who could fully control my greatest dragon. I have been searching the galaxy for such a person." June knew this was a lie. The Queen was saving face in front of her subordinates. She could not admit that she had lost control of her prized possession. "Come," she ordered. "Both of you. To the menagerie." Morok looked at June, as if asking what they should do. "I think we should go with her," June said softly to the dragon. "For now." Together they followed Queen Ara through the corridors of the ship. The warriors kept their distance. Crew members stared in amazement as they passed. a human walking beside the queen's deadliest dragon as if it were a loyal pet. Hana was allowed to follow at a distance. As they walked, she managed to whisper to June, "Be careful. She will never. Accept this, she's planning something." June nodded slightly. He knew Hana was right. Queen Ara would not allow anyone else to command her precious dragons. This was only a temporary solution. But as he walked beside Morok, feeling the dragon's warm presence next to him, June realized something had changed. A connection had formed between them. Something neither the queen nor her warriors could understand, and in that connection might lie their only chance for freedom. 3 days had passed since June became Morok's handler. The queen had given him a new room near the royal menagerie. It was larger than his old one and had better food. But June knew it was also easier to watch him there. Each morning he would go to Morok's area. The dragon no longer stayed in a cage. Instead, it had a large open space with metal platforms to rest on. When June entered, Morok would always lift its massive head and make a soft rumbling sound that seemed like a greeting. June checked the neural interface daily. He had made small improvements to make it more comfortable for Morok. The queen had allowed this, but her eyes were always cold when she watched them together. "Feeling better today?" June asked as he examined the device on Morok's neck. The dragon made a gentle purring sound in response. June had started to notice something strange. When he worked near Morok, his mind felt sharper. He could see mechanical problems more clearly, as if the dragon was somehow helping him think. A door opened, and Queen Ara entered with 2 scientists. One was a Varix like her. The other was human. June recognized him as Day, the head scientist, who worked on the biomechanical systems throughout the ship. "Show me what he can do," the queen commanded. June had been expecting this. Sooner or later, the queen would want to see if Morok would follow his orders. "What would you like us to demonstrate?" June asked. "Movement control, target response, the basics." Queen Ara's voice was cold. June turned to Morok. "They want to see if you'll listen to me," he said softly. "Just simple movements, okay?" The dragon's orange eyes seemed to understand. June had never given Morok commands before. He didn't like the idea of controlling the dragon. But if they didn't cooperate, the queen might separate them. "Morok, move to the right platform," June said clearly. Without hesitation, the dragon glided across the room to the metal platform. Now to the left one. Again, Morok obeyed perfectly. "Target practice," Queen Ara said, gesturing to Day. The scientist pressed a button, and several small floating targets appeared in the room. June had seen dragons use their plasma breath during the attack on the Endurance. He knew how destructive it could be. "Morok, can you hit those targets?" he asked, making it a question rather than an order. Morok's throat began to glow orange. With precise control, the dragon released small bursts of plasma, destroying each target one by one. Not a single shot missed. Queen Ara watched with intense focus. "Impressive," she said finally. "Now the combat simulation." Day pressed another button. Large metal shapes rose from the floor. They looked like enemy soldiers or machines. "I want to see attack patterns," the queen ordered. June hesitated. "Morok, these are just practice targets. Can you show them what you can do?" Morok moved with incredible speed for something so large. It twisted around the metal shapes, striking them with its tail and head. Some it melted with carefully controlled plasma bursts. Within minutes, all the targets were destroyed. The queen nodded, satisfied. "Leave us," she told the scientists. "I will speak with the handler alone." After they left, Queen Ara circled June slowly. Morok watched her every move, staying close to June. "You do not give commands," she observed. "You ask questions, make suggestions. Yet Morok obeys you perfectly." "I think of it more as cooperation than obedience," June said. The queen's face showed no emotion. "Come to my private chamber in 1 hour. We have matters to discuss." She left without waiting for a response. When she was gone, June sat down on the floor next to Morok. The dragon lowered its head to his level. "I don't think she's happy with us," June said. Morok made a sound that almost seemed like agreement. Later, Guards escorted June to the Queen's private chamber. It was large and filled with strange objects from different worlds. Queen Ara sat on a raised chair. Beside her stood Day, the scientist. "Do you know why the dragons obey me?" the Queen asked without greeting. "Because of the neural interface," June answered. "It forces them to follow your commands." Partially correct. But there is more. She nodded to Day. "Explain." The scientist stepped forward. "The dragons are not natural creatures," he said. "They were created by combining biological and mechanical elements, but their base species is ancient, much older than the Variks." Day activated a screen showing images of strange beings. They looked somewhat like the dragons, but stood on legs and had arms with many fingers. "These were the Krell," Day continued. "They were engineers and builders. They evolved to manipulate energy and matter directly with their bodies. They created wonders that no other species could match." "What happened to them?" June asked. "We conquered them," Queen Ara said simply. 500 years ago, we saw their potential as weapons. We changed their form, enhanced their abilities, and created the dragons." June felt sick. An entire species turned into living weapons. "But something of their original nature remains," Day said. "Their intelligence, their problem-solving abilities, their connection to machinery and energy. These traits are suppressed by the neural interface, but they are still there." "And somehow you accessed those traits," Queen Ara added, looking at June. "When you repaired the interface, you established a different kind of connection with Morok. Not control through pain, but something else." "I just treated him with respect," June said. "Not as a weapon, but as a living being." "It is more than that," Day said. He showed another image on the screen. This one showed brain patterns. "We have been monitoring both you and Morok. There is a synchronization between your brainwaves when you are together. Something we have never seen before." June remembered how his mind seemed clearer when working near Morok. "We help each other think," he said slowly. "Yes," Day nodded. "And this is significant because of what we know about humans." At that moment, the door opened. Hana was brought in by guards. She looked confused and afraid. "Tell him what you told me," Queen Ara ordered her. Hana looked at June. "I'm sorry. They made me explain why we think the Queen keeps human slaves." "Go on," the Queen urged. "Humans have unique brain patterns," Hana said reluctantly. "Different from other species. For years, the Queen has been experimenting, pairing humans with different biomechanical systems, looking for compatibility," Day added. "The human brain has certain qualities that make it ideal for interfacing with complex systems. We believed these qualities could enhance our weapons technology. And now we have proof." Queen Ara stood up. "What you have achieved with Morok is what I have been seeking for years. A perfect symbiosis between human and dragon." June began to understand. "That's why you kept me alive. Why you made me Morok's handler. You want to use this connection." "Of course," the Queen replied. "Imagine an army of dragons, each bonded to a human controller. Not through force, but through this special connection you have discovered. They would be more powerful, more precise, more deadly than anything the galaxy has ever seen." June thought of what this would mean. Dragons and humans forced to become weapons, used to conquer and destroy. His connection with Morok, something special and unique, turned into a tool for war. "I won't help you do this," he said. Queen Ara smiled coldly. "You already have. My scientists have been studying you both. Soon we will understand how to replicate the connection, and we have many humans in stasis, waiting to be paired with dragons." "Other humans?" "Where?" June asked. "In the lower levels," Hana whispered. "Hundreds of them, captured from ships and colonies." Queen Ara looked pleased with herself. "You will help train them, of course. You and Morok will show them how to establish the connection. 2 days from now, my allied war chiefs arrive to see a demonstration. After that, production begins." June felt cold inside. He had accidentally given the Queen exactly what she wanted, a new weapon, a new way to spread suffering across the galaxy. "And if I refuse?" he asked. "Then you are no longer useful," the Queen said simply. "And neither is Morok." As the guards led June back to his room, his mind raced. 2 days. He had 2 days to find a way to stop this. 2 days to save himself, Morok, and hundreds of captive humans from becoming part of the Queen's war machine. But how could he possibly escape the most powerful ship in the Varric's fleet? Even with Morok's help, the odds seemed impossible. Then, he remembered something Day had said. Something about the dragon's original nature, their connection to machinery and energy. Perhaps the answer lay not in escaping the ship, but in changing it from within. The day of the demonstration arrived. June had spent every moment with Morok, their connection growing stronger each hour. He had discovered something amazing. When he placed his hands on Morok's neural interface and focused his thoughts, he could feel the dragon's mind touching his own. And Morok could do more than just understand June. The dragon could connect to the ship's systems through the neural interface, not enough to control them, but enough to sense them, like feeling a heartbeat. June had managed to speak with Hana briefly the night before. She had passed him a small device. "It will disable the slave collars," she whispered. "I stole it from the guard station. We've been planning an escape for months, but we needed a distraction. Tomorrow will be your distraction," June promised. Now, as guards escorted him to the main demonstration hall, June felt calm. Either his plan would work, or he and Morok would die trying. The hall was enormous. At one end sat Queen Ara on a raised platform. Around her were at least 20 Varric's war chiefs, each wearing elaborate armor showing their rank and victories. Guards lined the walls. In the center was an open area where Morok waited. June was led to the dragon's side. Morok made a soft rumbling, sound of greeting. "Welcome, honored allies." Queen Ara stood to address the war chiefs. "Today you will witness the future of our conquest, a perfect union of dragon power and human control, the first of a new weapon that will make our forces unstoppable." She gestured to June and Morok. "This human has discovered a method of connecting with our dragons that goes beyond the neural interface, a true symbiosis that enhances the dragon's abilities and control." The war chiefs murmured with interest. One of them spoke. "Show us this connection." Queen Ara nodded to June. "Demonstrate the battle sequence," she commanded. June placed his hand on Morok's neck near the neural interface. He leaned close to the dragon's head. "Are you ready?" he whispered. Morok's orange eyes gleamed. The dragon understood exactly what June was planning. "Begin," the Queen ordered. June looked up at her and the war chiefs. "I'd like to demonstrate something different first," he said clearly. "Something you haven't seen before." Before the Queen could object, June closed his eyes and focused his thoughts. Through their connection, he sent Morok a clear image, not of battle targets, but of the neural interfaces on all the dragons in the menagerie. Morok's throat began to glow orange, but instead of plasma fire, the dragon released a precise pulse of energy. It traveled through the air like lightning, but didn't hit any physical target. It was a signal. Throughout the ship, in the royal menagerie, every dragon's neural interface received the pulse. June and Morok had discovered that the interfaces were all connected to a central system. With the right signal, they could communicate with every dragon on the ship. Queen Ara stood up, suddenly alert. "What are you doing?" "This is not the demonstration we discussed." Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. On screens around the hall, the war chiefs could see dragons in the menagerie breaking free of their containment areas. "What is happening?" one of the war chiefs demanded. "Treason!" Queen Ara shouted. "Guards, seize the human!" But as the guards moved forward, Morok released a wall of plasma fire that blocked their path. The dragon had careful control, not harming anyone but creating a barrier they couldn't cross. June pulled out the small device Hana had given him. He pressed the button. Throughout the ship, the control collars on hundreds of slaves deactivated and fell away. Now the alarms grew louder. Reports came in from all areas of the ship. Slaves escaping, Dragons free. Security systems failing. You, see, Your Majesty, June said to the furious queen. Morok isn't just connected to me. He's connected to every dragon on this ship, and they remember what they once were, the Krell. Engineers, builders, not weapons. Queen Ara's face showed a mix of rage and disbelief. You cannot control all the dragons, only I have that power. I'm not controlling them, June replied. I'm freeing them. There's a difference. On the screens, they could see Hana leading groups of freed slaves toward the escape pods and smaller ships in the hangar bays. Other dragons were joining Morok's call, using their plasma breath to disable weapon systems and block Varric's warriors. We need to go, June said to Morok. The dragon lowered its head, allowing June to climb onto its neck. The war chiefs were on their feet now, drawing weapons. Queen Ara screamed orders to the guards. Kill them! Kill them both! Morok moved with incredible speed. The dragon raced from the hall with June holding tight to its metallic scales. They headed toward the lower levels where the human captives were kept in stasis. Guards tried to stop them, but Morok easily knocked them aside. When they reached the stasis chamber, June slid from Morok's back and rushed to the control panel. There are hundreds of them, he said, looking at the rows of sleeping humans. We need to wake them all. Morok moved to a larger control panel and placed its head against it. Through their connection, June could feel the dragon interfacing with the ship's systems. Lights began to flash as stasis pods started opening one by one. You're doing it, June said in amazement. You're hacking the ship's computers. As humans began to wake and climb out of their pods, confused and disoriented, Hana arrived with a group of freed slaves. The escape pods are ready, she reported. And we've taken control of 3 transport ships in the hangar bay. But the Varrics are organizing a counterattack. June nodded. We need to move fast. Get these people to the transports. As Hana and the others led the freed captives away, June turned to Morok. Now for the hard part. We need to get to the main control room and send a message to the Galactic Alliance. They need to know the coordinates of the Varric's homeworld. Morok lowered its head in agreement. Once again, June climbed onto the dragon's neck. They raced through the corridors, heading for the upper levels where the main control room was located. The ship shook violently. Some of the other freed dragons were damaging critical systems in their escape. Fires had broken out in several sections. When they reached the main control room, they found Queen Ara waiting for them. She wore full battle armor now and held a weapon that glowed with strange energy. You have destroyed everything I built, she said, her voice cold with fury. My dragons, my slaves, my ship. They were never yours to own, June replied. No, living being should be a weapon or a slave. You are a fool. The galaxy respects only power and fear. The queen raised her weapon. And now you will die, she fired. A bolt of energy shot toward June, but Morok moved with lightning speed, deflecting the blast with its armored scales. The queen fired again and again. Morok protected June from each shot. Then the dragon counterattacked, sending a carefully controlled burst of plasma that knocked the weapon from Queen Ara's hands. It's over, June said. Your warriors are busy fighting fires and escaping dragons. Your war chiefs have seen your perfect weapon turn against you. Your power is broken. How? The queen demanded. How did you turn my perfect creation against me? June moved to the control console and began sending the coordinates of the Varric's homeworld to the Galactic Alliance. You treated them as machines when they needed a mechanic, he explained. You wanted obedience when you should have sought understanding. A massive explosion rocked the ship. The engines were failing. They had minutes before the flagship would be destroyed. We need to go, June said to Morok. The dragon lowered its head in agreement. They left Queen Ara in the control room, surrounded by the ruin of her power. They raced to the hangar bay where the last transport was waiting. Hana stood at the door, waving them in. Hurry, she shouted. The ship is breaking apart. June and Morok made it to the transport just as another explosion tore through the flagship. The doors closed behind them, and the transport launched into space. Through the viewport, June watched the Queen's massive flagship break into pieces. Other transports and escape pods carried the freed humans and aliens away from the destruction, and among the stars flew dragons, free for the first time in centuries. No longer weapons, but returning to what they once were, builders, engineers. The Krelda Morok pressed its head against the viewport, watching its kind soar through space. June placed his hand on the dragon's neck, feeling their connection grow even stronger. "Where will you go now?" Hana asked, coming to stand beside them. June looked at Morok, and through their connection, felt the dragon's answer. "Together," June said. "We go together. There's a galaxy that needs rebuilding." As the transport carried them toward freedom, June thought about the strange path that had brought him here, from a simple mechanic on a small ship to the person who helped free an enslaved species, all because he saw a broken part that needed fixing. Sometimes, that was all it took to change the galaxy. One person, with the right tools, fixing what was broken. And beside him, Morok rumbled in agreement.